Okay, I'd like to call the Human Services Committee meeting for May 15th to order. First order of business is to approval of minutes from April 17th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Pavlock, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have anyone here for the privilege of the floor? Anyone, again, for the privilege of the floor? Oh, is it? Oh, okay. If you could come up front and introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Melissa O'Connor. I'm a Jamestown-based CPS supervisor of 22 years. I've attended the last 2 months of committee meetings, and I don't want CPS to drop off your radar as our concerns continue. We are still not at the standard 40-hour work week, and the commissioner, who is also our department head, and the HR director said at the last meeting that we have not formally requested this. For clarification, that is not true. We have requested the standard 40-hour work week option on multiple occasions for at least the last year. The commissioner, as the department head, has the authority per the contract to make this change with the approval of the county executive. As a reminder, 62% of the salary of a CPS titled employee is paid for by New York State, as this is a mandated position, so whether the staff is at a 35 or a 40-hour work week, the state percentage remains the same. At this time, we are still currently 35-hour per week employees, but have been given permission to work up to 40 hours for casework needs. This happened only after Supervisor Dubinsky and myself requested a meeting with the commissioner on April 3rd, and he requested justification for the reinstatement of the 5 hours of flex time between 35 and 40 hours. I sent this request for Jamestown staff after that meeting, which he approved on a provisional basis. To my knowledge, there has been no progress on this outside agency coming in to do a very expensive and lengthy time study, as he mentioned last month. The majority of the Jamestown CPS workers utilize these extra hours on a weekly basis because of the demands of their caseloads and the inability to control intake. Ultimately, this is about time to meaningfully work with families, make appropriate referrals, and assess safety of children. In addressing the difference between North and South County during a conference with the commissioner, he agreed that the Jamestown area is more like the Bronx, referring to when he worked in New York City, and the Dunkirk area was more like the suburban areas. He agreed that the Jamestown area cases have a higher level of difficulty and complexity due to criminal activities, illicit drug use, violence, mental health factors, and poverty associated with a more urban environment, and therefore take more time and logistics to fulfill casework needs. If he were to offer the 40-hour workweek option to CPS, the staff who do not feel it is needed would have the option to remain at the 35 hours. Jamestown CPS specifically has many complex, traumatic, and very difficult cases, and they deserve the respect to have time to do their work and input into the process. They continue to feel unheard and dismissed. I personally requested a meeting with the commissioner on May 1st and was given a date 6 weeks out on June 12th. That was the earliest possible opening in his schedule. Staffing and recruitment are still an ongoing problem. After the spring civil service caseworker exam was given, the very short list of candidates was canvassed, and only 4 people responded that they were interested in coming in for interviews. We currently have 6 openings in Jamestown CPS and 2 openings in services, which is preventive and foster care. One of these 4 potential candidates has already dropped out, leaving us only 3 people to interview for 8 positions, and the fall exam is not yet scheduled. Jamestown CPS also continues to have 2 people out on extended medical leave and 2 workers who just completed training. Out of a total possible staff of 21 caseworkers in Jamestown, we have 13 workers who can be assigned cases, 2 of whom are brand new, and 6 of whom have under 2 years of experience. Additionally, there have been decisions made very recently that directly affect CPS operations and could negatively impact our staffing levels with no input or even awareness of these decisions from the CPS supervisors and the director of CPS. To be clear, in 22 years of direct CPS casework and supervision, I have never felt the need to request legislative oversight in order to be heard. I just don't know what else to do. I don't want to take up any more of your time explaining how CPS continues to feel undervalued, unappreciated, and dismissed. South County staff are very frustrated that these important issues regarding our work, which impacts safety of children, remain unresolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other persons wishing to speak to privilege of the floor? Any other? Thank you. We will move on to our first proposed resolution, which is to confirm the appointment for the Chautauqua County Board of Health.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak to this?
Ken Dahlgren.
Board.
Mike Falk, Chautauqua County Chief Medical Officer. This is an appointment by the county executive for a position on the Board of Health. Ken Dahlgren has many years of experience with advocacy work regarding tobacco use and also vaping. We thought the Board of Health felt as though he would be an asset to helping the Board of Health guide some decision-making surrounding our approaches to smoking and the harmful effects of, and as well as vaping. So that's the recommendation from the county executive.
Okay, I have read his resume or his bio, and it looks quite qualified. Are there any comments or questions?
I think, I do, suppose it. I think that background that you stated with the, you see a lot of abuse of vaping in minors. It seems to be pretty popular. So I think having someone that's really toned into the damages of vaping and how to better the county in sense of that through many different ways. So though I will value his sight on the board. So
Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Our next resolution is reallocating salary grade for licensed practical nurse 2 for the county jail, registered professional nurse 2 for the county jail, registered nurse supervisor 1 for the county jail,
Thank you.
and registered nurse supervisor 4 for public health.
So I think first we can sort of define the scope of what we are trying to address with these changes. And really it essentially revolves around retention and recruitment of nursing staff within our county jail. Just to give you a brief overview, and I think all of you are pretty familiar with our county jail, the average daily census runs right around 170 incarcerated individuals, about 75% of which are housed awaiting trial.
Marty.
We are bound to several state mandates. I mean, this is overall a mandated service by New York State. Without an appropriate medical service, we don't have a jail. We have obligatory medical and mental health assessments that are comprehensive and are mandated to be done within a certain time frame. We also, this past year, implemented our medication-assisted treatment program, of which all of you are aware. Our acuity when it comes to medical needs and mental health needs is very high. Many folks are coming in without appropriate medical care. Some of them are coming straight from the hospital after having significant hospitalizations for medical problems, traumatic injuries, post-operative cases fresh out of the hospital that our nurses are having to manage. The drug epidemic has only worsened over the last several years with fentanyl, and the associated comorbidities are at the highest that they've ever been. Our average daily census only averages, or not only, but averages 170, but please understand, this is not a constant number. This is changing every day. Many people coming in, many people leaving on a daily basis, and our nurses are having to keep up on their medical needs from day one. This past year, we were able to achieve national accreditation, which was able to allow us to elevate the standard of care that we are providing. And the national accreditation really dictates what the minimum standard of care should be within an incarcerated setting. We worked very hard to achieve this, and we would like to be able to maintain this, but it takes the appropriate team, it takes the appropriate leadership and staff. Our medical services treated, or we had scheduled over 9,000 visits within this past year. This is 2023 data, 9,595 visits for a variety of different medical reasons, withdrawal, doctor's visits, nurses' visits, and referrals to outside services as well as dental services. So it's a very busy clinic. There's a national shortage of nurses. Difficult to recruit anywhere in the country. Our challenges here at the county, we have an obvious pay disparity, wage disparity. There are many places out there, whether they be staffing agencies, nursing homes, or hospitals, offering sizable signing bonuses. Somewhere locally now in the range of $10,000 to $15,000 to sign up. Additionally, our nurses, aside from the high acuity and comorbidities our incarcerated individuals are experiencing, we also are mandated to staff in the afternoons, evenings, weekends, and holidays. The next several slides are individual entities locally. At the end of these few slides, I have some averages to bring it all back together. This is Cattaraugus County. In purple is Cat County. In green is Chautauqua. And obvious pay disparities noted. This trend continues when we look at the differences with UPMC and Chautauqua County. Anywhere ranging from $5 to $10 per hour wage disparity. The state prison in RNS 1 may make upwards of $20 more per hour than what we are able to offer here at Chautauqua County. Nursing home, Absolute Care, Heritage Ministries, not as dramatic as the state prison. We do have one state facility in Chautauqua County, and I should add, within the past 1 year, we have lost 3 RNs and 1 LPN, in large part due to the pay disparities and the work environment, the difficult work environment. 2 of our nurses went to the state prison, making substantially more money. This is Brooks Hospital. Erie County. All of that's in your packet for further details. So really, what does this mean for an LPN? It's a difference between $22.90 versus $24.39, and you can read the disparities with the RPN2, RNS1. The difference between the RPN2 and the RNS1, RPN2 is an associate level position, where an RNS1 is a bachelor requiring supervisory level nurse. We currently have 3 LPNs, 3 RPNs, and 2 RNS1s at this point in time.
Is that full staff?
We're still recruiting an afternoon, evening RPN2 shift, which we have not had any interest in quite yet, and that's been vacant for at least a month or so. So what we are proposing, 4 different titles are affected. Really, what we're trying to do is move all nursing staff that are public health into a specific county jail parenthetical. Some of the nurses in the jail have that jail parenthetical, some have public health. That dates back several years when the public health department took over the staffing in the jail. We will need to move our LPNs to this title, Licensed Practical Nurse 2, County Jail. The LPN currently is at a grade 12. The LPN 2, once they move up, that's a minimum of a 14 as it is now, but that'll move up to a 16. So functionally, essentially, it'll be a 4-grade increase. I'll get to that in a second. The title of Registered Nurse, Professional Nurse 2, County Jail, allocated currently to a grade 19 to be reallocated to a salary grade 23. The RNS1 from a grade 21 to a grade 26. The RNS4 public health will remain public health at this point in time, as that individual has direct oversight over all nursing staff and is also managing contracts, continuing on with all of the accreditation work that we've done, and so that grade is proposed to change from 37 to 31. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is a minimum budget impact for this year of $25,930.73. For the whole year of 2025, $53,417.30. Again, you could note the changes specifically. The LPN's currently at step 3, which is the entry level step, is $22.90 up to $25.87. It'll be, once we're able to change that title for them to the LPN2. RPN2 $28.71 to $32.97. RNS1 $30.76 to $36.90, and the RNS4 public health, that should be step 3, $38.32 to $44.64. That's a grade 27 to 31. I did work with our finance person, Diana Songer, this past week to look at our budget current year. With these changes, we do have a couple of open positions within the jail, one of them being our MAT coordinator that we have not filled. With those savings, those FTEs not being filled yet, we're projected to be about, even with this change of $25,000 for this budget year, still $20,000 under budget projected for the year. And those are, again, the minimum budget impacts. We cannot allow our nursing medical program to fail at the county jail. Again, we have lost 2 RNs and an LPN this past year. We want to be able to recruit the best of the best. We have been lucky so far in getting good applicants, but I would like to see 10 applicants for a position, not one here or there. This is a fragile program. It's difficult work, and unfortunately, the pay is not competitive at all with the market. And with an already significant nursing shortage across the country, we just don't have a leg to stand on to compete. So this, we tried to be as fiscally responsible as we possibly could to bring these wages up to a competitive level in the marketplace. Personally, I think they probably all of them deserve more across all entities of county government. But this was probably the most fragile nursing medical program in the county, and we needed to address this first.
If we approve this, you say it's gonna be competitive, and without going back to where the other entities were, does this bring us up to their level?
It brings us up to their level, so.
Close to.
Yeah, and these are the averages. So that regional average, it brings us up closer to that level. So for the RPN 2, 33.99, we're gonna be, closer to that, 32.97.
I mean, I gotta believe it wouldn't get close to the state prison. Is that-
Probably not, no. We really wanted to take a regional average. The RNS one at, $30, and actually RPN 2 is our, 33.99 is average, and we're bringing them up to 32.97. That's at the lowest step. So they may either start, depending on their experience, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, depending on their experience level when they're coming in, they may be assigned a higher step based on number of years of experience.
How do they move up in those steps?
Well, those are partly based on annual reviews. Successful annual reviews help them move up steps.
So it's not an automatic
in experience.
step at a time?
I don't know that it's automatic necessarily, but upon a favorable review, the employees are eligible for step increases. I can't tell you the details of that process necessarily, but at least superficially.
Now, how did traveling nurses figure in? Because my son and daughter-in-law traveled the country for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
They were making ungodly, like $70 to $85 an hour.
Well, and that's part of the problem, and nobody wants to work locally when you can go work for a travel agency making 2 or 3 times more money. The problem is that I feel it's a little bit short-sighted. It gets somebody money in their pocket now, but we really want to try to recruit and attract people to the county looking at a stable career with good benefits, and good benefits on the back end. And that's always my argument, and I explained this last night, that these travel agencies and temp agencies and even some hospitals for that matter can offer $10,000 to $15,000 signing bonuses, but you're not seeing those benefits on the back end. But when young people are coming out of school, they don't see that stuff. They don't see the value of that stuff. I never did.
You
Until
did,
you
my
get
son and
later in your
daughter-in-law.
career. Yeah. Yeah, but if you can pad your pockets for a couple of years doing travel nursing, it's crippling the healthcare system. I mean, smaller community hospitals are being crippled by travel agencies. The hospitals are paying huge premiums, and those huge premiums are not going into the pockets of the nurses. They're going into the pockets of companies staffing these folks. It's unfortunate, but we need to beef up our supply of nurses. I know JCC is working very hard on educating, good nurses to come out and hopefully stay local. But yeah, it's a huge, huge problem to try to recruit.
We got into benefits a little in comparisons. Now, some, we currently offer benefits and have health benefits and, they can get into a different sort of pension system in that. Some of these other comparatives, do they offer that?
The hospitals typically have a 401k.
Uh-huh.
Whether or not they're as good as, what we offer, the state retirement system, I'm not sure, but the hospitals typically have, the bigger entities typically have, and the state system is the state doc, state prison would be the same retirement system. So similar.
How about health benefits?
Health benefits would be the same, yeah.
Hospital offers those as well?
Hospital would offer full-time health insurance benefits, yeah. Yeah, it's really the differences between the retirement contributions.
Okay.
But like staffing agencies, for example, which we did not include those numbers in
Sure,
here. We
sure.
just did local employers, really. Those staffing agencies, they're usually, 1099 employees,
Yes.
just getting a paycheck. They don't have any benefits at all.
Including health.
Including health insurance. Sometimes they'll offer it, but most of the time it's just, it's a independent contractor, 1099 employee type status. But- Susan, yeah.
Hi, so I know we talked about this the other day in administrative services. I think you make a really good job of making a case for increasing the salaries of the nurses to make them competitive to, and in the long run, and I think Jamie's mentioned this before, when you're hiring people and then they leave, the long term, you're losing money other than just, paying for people in their benefits. So I think you make a really good case for that. I wanted to ask some questions, though, because as we discussed the other day, your nurses are public health nurses, right? They're part of the county Department of Public Health.
They are at this time,
Okay.
yes. Right, but what we are, with this proposal, we are proposing to reclassify their titles to nurse county jail specifically. So they will still be within, under the umbrella of the health department, yes.
Okay, and so right now, you said you're pretty much fully staffed, except for you're looking for a position in the afternoon or evening?
Right,
And then in the public health department, Department of Health, separate, public health nurses, not jail nurses, they have currently a shortage, and they had a certain number of positions removed just because they couldn't hire anybody to take those positions.
right. We did remove at least one FTE public health nurse out of the budget over the last year. One was reallocated, funds were reallocated to the coroner supervisor, and one, I believe, was taken out of the budget completely because it sat there for years and we were not able to fill the position.
Okay, so it sounds to me like in public, just in terms of, as I said, I think you're making a really good case. I know this, at the jail, the national accreditation is really good and really helpful and positive, and the medication-assisted treatment is great for people with substance abuse problems, and there's a lot of reason to have that. But my concern is, and I'm in favor of increasing the salaries, like I voted for that the other day, but it concerns me that this almost seems as though public health nurses as a group, other than for the jail, are not being considered for the same level of increase, despite the fact that they have, one, that they are short-staffed, and also in being short-staffed, they're ending up to work probably more than they would if you weren't short-staffed. I mean, I've worked in settings like that in hospitals, and that's what happens. You gotta make up the difference. And also, I wonder if you have these steps that exist, are they across the board? And you're just taking the county nurses out and bringing them up here while keeping the public health nurses here?
Yeah, so I think those are good points, and this is not to say that, the nurses in the jail, do more important work than any other nurse within the county. I mean, everybody is working hard, doing an amazing job with some difficult situations. We wanted to identify the most at-risk program to start with. And, I mentioned the other day, it's kind of like triaging in the emergency department. We got to take the sickest patients first and take care of them. In this instance, I think we're taking the most at-risk program and giving that the attention that it needs first, so that we can stabilize that and then move on to the next problem. I mean, you're right. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If we have folks leave the health department, or if we have nurses in mental health or OFAS, or I think we have a total of 15 nurses that are employed in the county, plus or minus. If those people leave, I can tell you, we don't have, people jumping at those jobs. It's hard work for HR to get out there and advertise and try to garner attention to these jobs. And partly a big part of that is the pay. I mean, I often say it's not all about the money, but that's the reality. It is most of the time for most people. So it's not to say that we're not paying attention to that. I think we're identifying the most at-risk program right now. And to be honest with you, the medical care within the jail is highly scrutinized by the state.
Yeah.
A lot of oversight, huge amount of liability for the county if it's not done right.
Mm-hmm.
And
When you say high risk, you mean because those patients are more medically fragile, not so much that the program is fragile, but that.
I think the program is fragile. I mean,
how
when I look at the staffing
Mhm.
at our jail right now, I think there's only one that's been there more than a couple of years.
Mhm. Okay. I guess I wanted to make a
so-
plug for public health, because I think public health has
Yeah.
actually taken a blow over the last few years. And I think public health nurses, there's all kinds of statistics that show just the value of the programs. You have all kinds of preventive programs, all kinds of other, acute programs, all kinds of addressing different things, whether it's lead or whether it's immunizations. And I think, all told, that it really, I'd like to put a plug in for, I think it's important to look at nurses in the county. You might even, I know one thing that I remember over the last few months, or, we went and voted for increasing the various similar kind of steps for attorneys. We had public defenders, we had the DA, and we had county attorney, and they had to, it was a matter of, look, people are just going from one department to another, and I fear that, one of the things that happens when you take one department and you raise it up in salary, that in fact, you're, maybe people are gonna jump ship from public health and go to the jail,
Yeah, we have had some of those discussions. I don't think that folks will be making that jump, to be honest with you, just based on knowing the nurses within the health department. I don't know that they would make that jump necessarily. I mean, you're talking about a whole different kind of beast, with the work environment, the weekends, the holidays, and the evening work. Most people just don't want to do it. They don't want to have to work weekends and holidays. And to a certain extent, this job requires some hazard pay. I think relative to other jobs that either we have or the community has to offer. But again, I mean, it's not to minimize the work that any nurse does. I mean, I've worked in emergency departments my whole entire career. I know what they go through,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I know what the environments that some of our field work nurses throughout the county or
Exactly.
the homes they're going into are challenging families, challenging individuals, and challenging locations, and sometimes dangerous. But I think this is, you know, my pitch is I believe this is very rewarding work. What our nursing team does for these individuals within the jail, when they come in on day one, a lot of them are a mess, medical mess.
Yeah.
And they are able to see them every single day. It is like an inpatient unit, you know.
Mhm.
We've literally had people out of the hospital who've been, you know, in car accidents or have been shot or stabbed and have post-operative injuries, and our nurses are caring for these individuals from the day they get out of the hospital. Not to mention the acute withdrawal and the wounds associated with drug use. It's very eye-opening,
Mhm.
but it's rewarding work. I actually feel safer in the jail taking care of incarcerated individuals than I do working in an emergency department,
Mhm.
right? Because our correctional staff does a great job at protecting us. But, you know, I've said it the other day and I'll say it again. These folks the majority of them have good hearts, and they've fallen on bad times. And they need us to help them. And we need to provide care that is medically appropriate and at the standard of care. And that's, you know, what the national accreditation holds us to. So,
I know you've said often that the medical care they get in the jail is probably the only medical care they get at all.
yeah, that's true. Yep.
So, any other comments, questions?
The only other comment I have is, you know, we struggle to compete on a benefit level, and I'm not sure across the board if all of these organizations or nursing positions qualify, but I would imagine that a county position would qualify for in the event that they had to take on debt to get their nursing degree for the public service loan forgiveness as well. So
Yeah.
we can't give them a sign-on bonus, but if we can guide them and provide, you know, guidance to let them know that there is an opportunity for them, it's just something I thought.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it might take a little bit of time, you know, but to have that loan forgiven is a big deal. Yeah,
It's huge.
I think it takes 10 years of service, I think, to do that.
So
to be
it's an
eligible.
income-driven repayment, and generally speaking, with the salaries that we're talking about here, they would qualify for a zero payment for 120 months, and then their entire balance would be forgiven.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah,
something to
it's
think
substantial. Yeah, but thank you. That's a good point.
And it's a long range. The younger
not
people need
immediate.
to think
Yeah,
long range.
Yeah, yep.
Pensions, retirement, loan forgiveness. Anything else? Okay.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I'll try to do a little quicker job tomorrow if anybody's here for audit and controls. I know there's a long agenda for tomorrow, so.
Okay, all in favor?
about. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our next resolution is setting salary for grant coordinator.
I think we need that, but. Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah. Trish McLennan, Deputy Director with Mental Hygiene Services.
And Mary Ann Spanos, the Director of Chautauqua County Office for Aging Services.
So we're here tonight. We, with the centralization of finance, fiscal responsibilities, which was a great move under Kitty's leadership, we have found in both of our departments that there have been some other responsibilities and roles that were needed to still be done that do not fit after lots of review. We're talking from September through present, so this is not an impulsive decision, but we've been working on this since September. we have discovered there's quite a few other duties that we know and we identified that still fall under each of our departments. So there are things that have not been identified as being a fiscal responsibility, as being a Department of Finance, but definitely very important things. These relate mainly to grant funding and also to state funding. We each have in our departments some requirements through the state and through federal government that requires a lot of responsibility from someone who is trained in it, somebody who can do drawdowns, someone who can do the report, someone who can do the request. And then there's also been some, in our department, some other staff that still need supervision, payroll, that type of thing, that we've realized we need to still have covered. So after a lot of work with both the finance department and HR department, we came across a couple job descriptions that fit real well with that. One is a grant coordinator and one is a senior grant coordinator. So I think with our two departments, we are definitely different sizes. We have different needs. For mental hygiene, what we're looking at is a senior grant coordinator. And that role, as you've got defined there, would fit with our responsibilities for things like CFRs. We have 12 agencies that we have to visit several times a year. We get all the flow-through money for a lot of different agencies within our county, Council on the Aging, Mental Health Association, and 9 other agencies that we help with funding for. All that requires reporting back, quarterly reports, visits, that needs that kind of responsibility that does not fit under finance. And then under Mary Ann's department,
Yeah, and
something
I'll just
similar.
explain, under the Older Americans Act, we have, and our state grant funding, there's probably 30 different funding streams, and all have different reporting requirements. And some of the tasks that are grant related that we have to do to the state really delineates where those funds are spent, that all the criteria is being made, are being met. And so we really need that. And I actually retained one position in my department to do all of that work that finance identified did not belong in their department. But certainly I can't take over all of those things and still run the department. So I need somebody who, and as I said, I currently retained that position of accounting supervisor, but it was felt like we should have a different title for these services or this position so that it didn't conflict with the whole fiscal reorg.
So for both of our departments, this would be budget neutral. We're not asking for additional FTEs. It does remain within our current budget, so we're not requesting new positions be funded in any way. So it already fits within both of our departments. And then this would, and if there's anything additional from HR or finance, this would then allow this to be a position that if other departments did assess that they needed it, wanted to work on it, they would look at it through the normal process, through budgeting for the next calendar year to see if it fit within their department. For us right now, it is a budget neutral that we're requesting, which is why our two departments are listed on those requests.
How do you handle these tasks now?
As I said, when the fiscal reorg was complete, I actually retained an accounting supervisor position because there were just too many tasks that the state needs done that I don't have the expertise.
Right.
That was done by the accounting supervisor that I had.
Okay. I had that in my mind and it didn't escape when you answered it prior, sorry. But yes, okay. Any questions? Comments?
And it's important that you have this person in the sense of this title, with the particular work that the departments are doing and the tracking of those funds specifically, and also the grants that are available. It's really important. And anything, and as we know, it's not the same this year as it is next year. So really, someone has to have their finger on it all the time. So.
Well, and it's the interface too, between reporting and the funding.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, there are certain funds that I get in-house that you have to know, I can't use this to purchase home care with. I can only use it to do this with, and it's dependent on what the client looks like. So there's just so much interface that finance wouldn't get into the weeds on that. We need somebody who's watching how the spending is happening and making sure that the appropriate people are charged to the appropriate funds. And I think it's even more difficult in your department because you're initiating services that are then billed to insurance companies and
So,
things like
and it is that piece. I mean, neither one of us want to come in front of you, and I said this the other night, neither one of us want to come in front of you anytime in the future saying that we did not manage our funding, our grants correctly, accurately, ethically, and legally. So it's real critical, and that's where Kitty agrees with us, it's real critical that we make sure we are monitoring each and every funding that we get and do it accurately. I'm not going to be sitting in front of you saying, oops, I'm not sure where it went, I'm not sure how it went, I'm not sure how we spent it.
And
So,
we've had these issues.
so we are committed, we're committed to not be have.
And we're
have
both
those issues.
responsible that even
So,
when we
yes.
have
Oh.
subcontractors, like I have, you know,
Not specifically.
Meals on Wheels or adult daycare or UPMC, we have to go and audit, you know, how they used the money.
Sure.
And make sure that it meets the state and federal guidelines, so.
Yes, Susan.
I just was wondering about, like, I know social services has reimbursement of indirect costs. And I'm wondering if that kind of management of grants is, you know, is reimbursable, at least partly
In all
as
of our grant
indirect.
funds, we have
The indirect.
so much that is indirect.
Uh-huh, okay.
Whereas, and for us, we have one grant, the Tapestry Grant, that provides the children's services that is called, in our language, it's a SAMHSA language, in kind.
Yeah.
So it's not a reimbursable, but we do have to, for every dollar that's spent from the Tapestry money, there has to be proof that we've done in that amount of work with an individual. So in other words, if we do a training, how much we spend on the training, we need to show who signed up for it, who did it, how many in-kind dollars there were. Those get reported out on a quarterly basis to SAMHSA, which is a national organization, and that's who awarded that grant. For the other one, that's not required. So those in-kind dollars are similar, but it's not money. It's just proof that for every dollar we got, did we give a dollar's worth of service in our community? Which is kind of an interesting way to report.
Yeah.
Very,
But we have a program
Yes, you are different.
administration line in most of our funds. I won't say it's all of them, but most of like the Older Americans Act funds and the major funds we can go up to such a percentage that we can charge against admin. But also we have local match, so sometimes it
sure.
goes into that.
That was just something I found out about, you know, within
Yeah,
the last
you're
few
right.
months in terms of you get some of that, or at least in the social
Yes.
services, you get some of that reimbursement for those admin or other indirect, you know,
Yes.
even supplies, all kinds of.
Yeah,
I
I know.
thought that was
It's-
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And OMH, similar thing to what you're talking about. With
Okay.
for OMH is they also give us, the county government, and they do this in every county, some dollars based on what services we provide, and we have to make sure the description of those services are attributed to the right place and the right type of service. Like some of our money comes through OMH, and a little bit of that's used in the jail, for example, because it's for forensic. It's earmarked for forensic. So it's not anything we get reimbursed for, but we have to show where it went, how it was used, and report on that quarterly. So, yes, those are the types of things. You're nailing it. It's just a little different for social services and for Office of the Aging, but it's the same concept. And it's
Okay.
that accountability of making sure we're doing it right. And
Thank you.
if audited, can we prove it?
Okay. Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
I,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next resolution is setting salary for senior grant coordinator.
that's the
Or
same.
that was the same one? Oh, we did, okay. Very good, okay. So now we have our discussion.
Do we have to vote on it twice or something?
Oh, yeah, do we?
I think so.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all in
So-
favor of senior grant coordinator?
Aye.
I,
Yeah.
I just know that because in admin we had to,
Okay,
yeah.
not very much time, Diane. Speed talk. Well. No. Start identifying and talking. Anything you want to change?
Diane Anderson, Director of Temporary Assistance.
Thank you.
And Katie Geis, the Executive Director at Chautauqua Works.
And I'll be reporting information on the month of January. We're a little bit behind in our collection of data. So the month of January, the participation rate for all of New York State was 13.4. The rest of state was 9.7, and Chautauqua County was 8.3. So we're not too far off from that rest of state number. We ranked 37 out of 57 counties, or 26th in the state for the highest participation rate. We continue to work to get people engaged in work activities. And in January, we had 43 individuals who are participating and counting for the rate. And an additional 118 individuals were participating in work activities, however, did not meet all of the required hours to count in the rate. In the month of January, there were a total of 32 conciliation notices sent to those people that were not participating in work activities up to the maximum number of hours required. And we processed 38 sanctions during the month of January, 9 of which were the all families category. There were 45 individuals in sanctioned status as of January, and 35 of those are sanctioned beyond duration. So 28 of those 35 will count against us in the participation rate. So they're counting as in the denominator number, but we can't require that they do anything. For the exempt and non-exempt, the number of exempt individuals continues to exceed the number of non-exempt. And in January, there were 980 that were exempt and 650 in the non-exempt. And of those 980 exempt, 310 were in the all families category. And of the 650 non-exempt, 344 were in all families. And of course, just as a reminder, 43 of those were participating and positively counting. And then we had an additional 118 that were participating, but just not enough to count. So the non-exempt participation rate, if we only looked at those people that we can require to do something, would be 12.5%. The IMA report is the last one, should be the last one in your packet, with the yellow highlighting. During the month of January, 131 individuals were referred for assessment. 64 showed for their assessment, resulting in a 51% no-show rate. Of the 64 individuals who were assessed, 19 did not meet criteria for treatment. 26 were already engaged in treatment and will now be monitored by IMA, and 18 will be referred for treatment. Of the 44 new IMA clients, 2 are in short-term rehabilitation, 2 are in long-term rehabilitation, and 40 will be receiving outpatient treatment. And in the month of January, 91.6% of the cases referred were safety net cases, and 8.4 were family assistance cases. At the beginning of January, IMA was monitoring 143 cases, and at month's end, 8 had completed treatment and/or monitoring. 25 were closed for noncompliance. 8 were determined to be employable, which is a rate of 5.1% for the month of January. And the average number of days to employability was 106. The temporary assistance caseload continues to increase. In January, there were 1,910 cases, which is really back to the level it was in 2018. And you can see that in the graph where we started and where we are now. It's creeping back up. The SNAP caseload has been trending down slightly and is now increasing slightly over the last few months of this report. Still right around 11,000 though. And, yep.
Question just on the funds for this. Obviously, everything is going up price and cost in this world. You know, you used to be able to buy a thing out of Lysol for half of what it is now, a cleaners or, you know, food, are these, how does the federally, rate go up? Is it just raised when there's a necessity? Is it done by, you know?
No, we get the same reimbursement, just depends on the number of cases, so the reimbursement doesn't change. Their benefit levels really haven't changed either since
So
then.
their benefits have kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, and of
They
course
just
the
have to buy, they really could just buy less than what they were buying,
right,
say, 2 years ago when the prices were lower.
yeah.
Right.
Yep. Application numbers in the month of January increased a bit from December. Those really go back and forth, month to month. And we continue to deny about 38% of applications for not, complying with the program requirements. 38%, yeah, it's right around that. It continues to be that, so. I don't know how our caseload is going up because we do seem to deny quite a few of them, so. As far as temporary housing, in the month of January, there were a total of 240 cases in temporary housing. That's the largest number we've seen so far. 100 were single males, 76 single females, and 64 families. 11 individuals were on parole or recently released from jail. And there were 116 individuals' families placed in temporary housing due to Code Blue conditions in the month of January. As some of you may know, UCAN Mission had been closed in early January. They did reopen the end of April. So a lot of those placements had to be sent to hotels, so we didn't have anything else available. The cost for the month of January was $382,243.93. And I'll let Katie talk.
So you saw the numbers, and you know I don't go through, because this is basically the same information that I send you pretty much every month. I mean, it changes a little bit, there's some variables, but I always think it's important to understand some of the nuances that are happening on a day-to-day basis, since it's our staff who are doing that day-to-day service delivery for the employment services programs. So I'm going to talk a little, just real quickly about, because I know we're short on time, the work experience program. So that's where that participation rate comes from. And when you look at that, there was that 118 individuals who are participating, but just not quite to the level that they need to be to count positively. And the reason why that's important to understand that it's while it's not a good thing that they're not counting positively in the participation rate, it's important to note that there are a lot of people participating and why they might be missing. So if you think about the real world of work, you get paid time off, you can call in sick, life happens. In the paid work experience, or in the work experience program, that's not the case. So if life happens in the last month or the last week of a month, and somebody doesn't work the full number of hours that they need to just in that week, they count negatively for us for that whole month. There's no way for them to make up those hours, and they don't get time off allotted to them. So if you think about it, the work experience program, while it's good, I think it's also important to understand those 118 people are participating. They just maybe aren't doing absolutely everything they have to meet that full requirement, but that doesn't mean they're not doing good things and doing what they're supposed to do. The other thing I wanted to make sure that you knew that we're doing, and our staff works really closely with the case managers, is when an individual's been on a work experience at the same work site for 9 months, an assessment starts to happen, and the case manager, along with our staff person, works together to work with the work site as well as with the participant to say, how is it going? What's happening? What have you learned? You know, are there other factors as to why maybe they aren't meeting that participation requirement, et cetera? And we start to look at moving them at about 12 months so that nobody becomes stagnant unless there's a good reason for them to remain at that work site. Maybe they don't have transportation to get anywhere else, or perhaps they are learning a lot and they've come a long way, but they're really just starting to hit their stride, so you don't want to, also negatively impact that either. But I just wanted you to know, like, people aren't just sitting in complacency and just, going about their business and not learning and growing and having that opportunity, that we have a process in place to make sure that that's happening. And with that, I won't add anything else, because I could tell you a whole lot of other stuff too. But I thought that, when we look at participation rate, it's always, how does that work? Why isn't it? Why are we where we're at? And I think it's important to note. And the other is the exempt versus the non-exempt. If you look at those two numbers, are exempt folks, so those are the individuals that for a reason, a medically confirmed reason, we can't make them do anything, but they're going to still count in the denominator. And so if you look at those two numbers, I think it's 980 to 610. So it's only 610 people can we actually expect to at least try to get them to participate to the level that we need them to. You're already never going to make your participation rate, because the numbers, you can't make that 980 that are counting against you in that denominator do anything. But what it also tells you is that the cases that are open are truly for people that absolutely need the help. So when people say, nobody wants to work, that isn't the case. We don't have these huge numbers of people, on social services that don't have a good reason why they need the extra help. So.
Definitely. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
2 minutes over. We almost kept you on time. So close.
Great. You were pressed. Okay, is there any other? Yes. I would like to try and call a special meeting of this committee in the very near future to discuss the Child Protection Services at an agreeable time with all of us, or at least the vast majority, and anybody else that needs to be here, which are several different departments and people. So I'll send out an email to everyone who would like to try and do that, so.
Works for me.
Okay. This has been an issue that's been brought before us with concerns, and I'd like to try and
Start with
sort it
that.
out.
So this is gonna be before next month, it's gonna be sometime in the next couple of weeks?
As soon as we can. Yeah, as soon as we can round up everyone to get together. I don't know, morning, afternoon, evening, certain
Okay.
day.
What I found, Marty, is just maybe list out a few day
Yeah.
options, a few options with a few different time slots, and see what you get the most of and pick that day, so.
Yeah, there's that,
Google phone. Yeah.
whatever that is that somebody's gonna very someone's gonna have to help me with that.
Just send an email with
Olivia.
some dates and times.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
just,
okay.
yeah.
Olivia.
Doodle, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Olivia's a good doodler.
You can doodle it? You don't doodle during the meetings. Okay.
Who's not retired? 'Cause if not, I don't know
Meetings.
who's not retired.
Dan.
So,
And then we.
Yeah,
Somewhere
you're
in the
saying
afternoon
let
then.
them, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I don't
Well,
care.
and
I'm
we
good
want
during
other,
meetings.
human resources and.
I'm good anytime you decide.
Okay.
My daughter-in-law said the same,
Yeah. Oh,
like in California, at the end of it. But I do wanna make sure I come to this meeting,
yeah, that's.
but I'm not coming.
Well, yeah, no.
Okay, yeah.
Well, okay, any other? Oh.
I make a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
So what, that would be the
Hey, Jamie,
longest
I don't
meeting on
think
record if you
you
didn't.
signed.
Be active for a month.